want to get back into the LCS real bad.
I think it will be really fun to play on the stage again. We're really close to it.
Our opponents are Renegades. Both Crumbs and AlexH offer very good experience.
This is the first time that I've been given the chance to prove myself.
I'm here to make it into the LCS again.
If we lose, then that's very heartbreaking.
I've sacrificed a lot to come to NA.
We got this final opportunity.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Summer 2015 North American Challengers Series Finals. Tonight, the stakes are as high as they could possibly get because whoever wins this best-of-5 match will join the North American LCS in 2016. Hey everyone, I am David Freak Turley. With me, as always, the man to my right this time, Aiden Zyrene Moon. How's it going?
Usually on your left, so I got to get the Zoolander down. I got to be an amphi-turner today.
Absolutely. So guys, let's take a quick look at the Challenger playoff picture. Now, Renegades last week defeated Team Imagine in 3 games in the semifinals. They earned a spot in tonight's contest, and they're going to face Coast. Now, Coast last week also 2-0'd their opponents, who were Cloud9 Tempest.
Yeah, and last night, Team Imagine earned the final spot in the Spring Promotion Tournament with their victory over Cloud9 Tempest. They will join tonight's losing team when they'll face either Teammate or Enemy eSports for the chance to replace them in the LCS next spring.
Yeah, and those matches, the promo matches, will be over in September. But of course, we've got games tonight. Winner joins the LCS. Before we get those games rolling, we're going to send it down to our analysts for a quick preview of tonight's action.
Freak. Hello, I'm James Dash Patterson, and joining me on the analyst desk for this series are Joshua Jat Leisman and Teammate jungler, as well as the star of the new League of Legends documentary, Live Play, Braden Porpoise-Schwark. Good evening, gentlemen. It's not very often that we start a show at 6 p.m., but not a bad way to end a Wednesday.
Yeah, 2 junglers to analyze the games. Both Canadians.
We can't even, all of our casters are junglers, and then all of our guests are always junglers. What does that say about junglers?
They're great.
That they're fantastic.
They're the smartest person on the team.
There it is.
Well, I can't be cocky or anything.
Right. Modesty, maybe a little bit later in the broadcast. Well, gentlemen, what are you looking forward to in this matchup between Renegades and Coast here?
Unsurprisingly, the jungle matchup. But that's only because we have a really unique jungler on the side of Coast right here. Shrimp, he kind of plays the way that I wish you could play jungle in professional play because he farms an exceptional amount and usually transitions at lead. A lot of teams in high-level play, when a jungler plays like that, their lanes get punished, they lose turrets early, and it hasn't worked. So I want to see if he can transition this as he gets to higher and higher levels of play because I really like Shrimp as a jungler. Having been at the highest levels of play, I actually have a question about that. Do you think that Shrimp or that style of jungling could succeed in the LCS, Porpoise?
I think so. It's a pretty greedy build sometimes. I see Shrimp going. He doesn't actually include a Sightstone in a lot of his builds, so that's going to be a little bit dangerous for them in vision-wise. What I like to see in this matchup is actually the mid lane matchup. We have AlexH versus Peck and Woof, and don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But so this matchup is going to be very interesting because AlexH is a pretty dominant player on LAN. I see him most of the time in scrims. He plays somewhat standard, kind of safe, but in LAN he really pulls off those huge plays that can turn around games completely. So we're going to have to see how Crumbs and AlexH really push that middle advantage, whether they control the vision, get a lot of control, especially with Shrimp being a farm jungler. He's not going to be contesting that vision as much as Crumbs will be. So we're going to have to see how Crumbs is going to play these matchups, and also AlexH, who I think is going to be dominant in this matchup.
All right, we saw him help TDK in the last promotion tournament. We'll see if he can repeat success here. One more follow-up question to you, Porpoises. Which of these 2 teams do you think is going to qualify for the spring LCS today?
I think Renegades has a really good shot to make it through here. I've scrimmed against them a lot with our teammate, and it just looks like they're a really solid team. They always give us a good game, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what kind of strategies they pull out here.
Well, a couple of the guys we just mentioned, Renegades, AlexH, and Crumbs, are well known for their accomplishments in professional League of Legends, but according to them, with a win here tonight, that would rank among their highest achievements.
I think getting back into the LCS is definitely one of the highest mountains in the league career that I've had so far. When I left, wasn't just leaving the whole idea of competitive gaming, it was just leaving that specific team.
I was out of LCS for a while already, and there were a lot of missteps and missed opportunities. But I think it will be really fun to play on the stage again.
I'm excited for the possibilities with this team right now because there is a lot of player input into how the team is ran.
I think in this team we're actually speaking much more about any issues that are happening and all the issues that are getting resolved pretty fast.
A lot of times, at least in the previous team I was on, a lot of conflict would just be bottled up and would create a lot of resentment and just not a good team atmosphere. Since we are older players, we have seen a lot of teams and how they do it wrong and how we think it should be done right. Starting the team with Renegades has been for the sole purpose of making it back into the LCS.
I think we get a lot of experience as a team, as the players like me and Crumbs. And right now we're playing with Maple that got a lot of experience too.
They're quite passionate and almost feels like they think that they have more to lose, which is definitely not the case at all. But that feeling is kind of reinvigorating.
Some of the players are getting into LCS by like getting straight into the LCS team. But I think this experience and this showcase is much better, and I don't know, it's much more fun.
If this were to be labeled as the end of the line for the league career, I just don't buy it. There's other people that are playing esports right now, and they are 27 years old and older. Personally, I feel like if I want to keep doing it, I can keep doing it.
I think this is kind of legacy that I want to like keep. The guy that achieved something, or actually a lot, was having family and like child, and that everyone will respect you for that, and people will understand that they still want to play with you because you're so good at this game, no matter what.
One of the most proud things I'd be of would be making it into the LCS, even if we were to win major tournaments later down the line. I would still classify this one as a good accomplishment.
A lot of veterans on that team, beyond just those two, actually. There's plenty of stage experience.
They mentioned it right there, Maple Street even played all the way back in Season 3. Like, we're nearing the end of the 5th season, so these guys have been at it for a while, and it's almost a battle for them. A lot of people say they're over the hill or that are not able to play to the same level, and they're going to try and prove that if they get back into the LCS.
Yeah, Porpoise, a question we ask every time we come around to the Challenger Series is, how are these amateur players going to perform in best of fives? Well, Renegades has the advantage of having players like yourself who are now experienced with some best of fives. Do you think that's going to really help with their mentality in coming back from losses?
Yeah, that's really important because in best of fives, you have to pretend like every game is the first game, or play a little bit safer. Obviously, if it comes down to the 5th game, you have to play really solid, so you don't want to make any mistakes. But for every game up until then, you have to play every game like it's the first game and execute your strategy as well as you can. Because if you don't do that on spot, no fear, make the play, then you're going to fall behind and the other team will take over.
We'll see which one of these teams can do that better. We'll be right back to break down Game 1, but for now, let's send it back over to Freak and Zyrene to get the series underway.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jimmy P. We are ready to get off the Challenger Series. It's going to be a whole bunch of fun. The summer finals are here. It's between Team Coast and Renegades. And now starting on the blue side tonight, Team Coast. Zyrene, break them down.
Yeah, Team Coast, they were auto-relegated to Challenger after the most dismal LCS split ever in spring, going 1-17, with 16 of those losses being in a row. But since the start of the summer split, they've looked like they usually do in Challenger, grabbing first place and crushing Cloud9 Tempest in the semifinals 2-0. Every time that Coast falls down to Challenger, they seem like a team that's LCS worthy.
Right back up the very next split. It always happens for these guys. We'll see if the next time looks any better. Now, every player really on this roster, up and down the line, has contributed quite a bit to Team Coast's dominance this summer. But I would say head and shoulders, the biggest acquisition here was Jungler Shrimp. Came out of Korean solo queue, and he has just paid massive dividends. He is statistically the #1 jungler in minion differential at 10 and 20, in KDA, and in kill participation.
And when you have those types of stats while maintaining 80% kill participation, which I believe is actually highest for all junglers, while maintaining that farm level, he is walking into the jungle and he is fighting you in the jungle over your CS. That's how he's creating the difference and the kill participation. But leading into the summer, we thought that Crumbs, he was going to be the best jungler and challenger, but Shrimp is definitely the one who's leading that position in almost every category. But Crumbs, he plays his own style and is actually leading the position in wards, whereas Shrimp, and you talked about it on, Porpoise talked about it on the desk, doesn't buy Sightstone sometimes because he's spending all his money on combat stats. So Shrimp is actually worst in wards of playoff junglers.
All right, well, we'll see how he transitions into this match, the big high-pressure one. But, of course, there's more to Team Coast, though. They've also got Coach St. Vicious behind them. He, of course, retired as a player. He's finished the spring split over with now playoff Team Gravity. But, you know, he could rejoin the LCS just like all these other guys as the coach if they win here tonight.
Just when you thought he was out, he's right back in. Team Coast
he never leaves,
has
man.
had a lot of success this summer. And as their coach, Saint's the man behind the scenes, getting them all ready for the big games like tonight, and we'll finally get to witness his tutelage here on the LCS stage. How many different aspects of professional play has he been around? He's been a player, he's been a caster, he's been an analyst.
I mean, he also coached for a while, then became a player again, then went back to coaching, and then he makes YouTube videos analyzing games as well.
He's just
the
done
guy,
everything.
I mean, Crumbs talked about, you know, being old enough and still being in the professional scene. He's 28 like I am, and he's still kicking, so good on Saint. But of course, there's more than one team here in the matchup. Coast is pretty good. On the other side, though, are their opponents, Renegades. The Renegades are quite solid as well. Leading into the summer split, they were super hyped up. I think most people thought they would be the best team in Challenger. Second best ain't bad so far, but of course they've also got a really stacked lineup of good players.
Yeah, the former pros on that roster. We have former Team Dignitas jungler Crumbs headlines the roster along with former Gambit gaming star Alex Each at mid. And Renegades was built around these two guys with the expectation that they'll make it back to the LCS and be immediately successful with their own team, just as FLICKR won Spring Challenger and is now competing for a spot in Worlds over in Europe.
Yeah, to go from a reformed team to the second place team in Europe is pretty damn impressive. So we'll see if Alex Itch can sort of just do what his rival mid laner FLICKR did and bring up a top-tier team right away. It's
going to
be
with
difficult.
TDK.
Hey,
he already qualified once. He's been here before.
I said top-tier team, though. They qualified, but you know, doing well is going to be difficult. We're going to see if they can do it. The lineup, though, around Crumbs and Alex is quite solid. Team 8's former AD carry Maple Street is back. That guy's actually been doing great. He hard carried their semifinal matches. Also, he's with support Remilia here, who's actually been pulling a lot of attention, being a very strong player as well. Those guys are all joined by solo Q star RF, finally looking to make his mark in the competitive scene and learning along the way.
Yeah, RF, you know, he's been on a couple Challenger teams before, but he's never been this far. And we're seeing it, I think it's 3 people returning on each squad and 2 new guys.
Yep. Yeah, the starting players who play on the Summoner's Rift, three returning LCS players, 2 new guys. The Saints, of course, a coach. Maybe he tips the favors now as far as the experience goes. But, of course, going to be a whole bunch of fun watching this series. And even still, though, despite all the star power on Renegade's roster, Coast mid laner Pekinwolf is actually not scared at all to match up against a former legend.
I've played against him inside the past Challenger series, and when I went against him, he mostly displays poke champions, which I'm similar to, but he doesn't seem like he's much of a playmaker anymore, and I don't expect him to play any assassin type or any roles like that, so I feel very confident that I'm just going to out-pressure him with my team and just be able to win my lane.
I wouldn't be that confident considering their stats. I mean, Alex Each averages at 20 minutes being up 13 CS, and Pekinwolf averages being down 12. So Pekinwolf is the worst, and Alex Each is the best at CS differential at 20. So last time they matched up, too, was that Diana that Pekinwolf ended up playing, and he was down 100 CS at the end of the game.
It's true. Yeah, so we'll have to see how it actually pans out here. Renegades definitely have some very strong laners. We'll see how the mid-game transitions for both sides. But for now, we're going to check out the starting lineups. On the blue side for games 1, 3, and 5, Team Coast. Chris up in the top lane, Shrimp in the jungle, Pekinwolf in mid, Mash and AD carry, and Conquan on support.
And on the red side, it's Renegades. In the top, it's RF, Crumbs in the jungle, Alex Each in mid, Maple Street at AD carry, and Remilia on support.
All right, we have all 10 players in the lobby. Coaches St. Vicious and Hermes behind their respective teams as well. We're going to get this one started very shortly. It is a best of 5. These guys matched up. They actually played 3 games throughout the regular season of the Summer Challenger Series. They split 1-1 in the regular season, played a tiebreaker that Coast won. So You could say that Coast come in as favorites, and not only as the #1 seed, not only with a better play performance, but also as sort of the head-to-head tiebreaker winner. And now we get to see how it works out on the stage. Experience and nerves going to be very important heading into these matches.
And the Kennen ban immediately towards RF. He won both of their playoff games against Imagine playing Kennen, and the one time they lost, he didn't pick it up. So good ban there, and an Olaf ban towards Chris. It was picked in the Cloud9 Tempest set. Both games.
Yeah, that's what you expect to see here. Thresh ban away from Remilia. That's not a surprise at all. Very scary support player on the side of Renegades. So I very much like these bans, though. They feel very targeted at their opponents.
Elise?
Elise and Rek'Sai being the big two that Shrimp is very good on. And if he's okay to play either, you don't have to rush pick it there.
I do like all the bans, though. Targeting RF,
Callista's up,
targeting Crumbs' best champion, targeting Remelia's best champion, and forcing her onto something like Nautilus. Possibly the Alistar as well, so you have to think this over. Brom's still on the table, so there's a lot of supports that you could actually go back and forth. It's not so pinched.
And I'm glad you brought up Brom, because we said there's no mid laners banned at all right now. And so when you consider that Alex actually, he even said in an interview in around week 2, he just wants to play a bunch of backline, really annoying poke champions all the time. Peek and Wolf said that's all he plays as well. If he's just going to play a Varus or a Jace or something, Brom is one of the very best picks into that kind of style. And Coast going to pinch a couple of, just pinch a support with that.
I like that. I also like Renegade's bans. The Sivir, she's fallen off a little bit in popularity, just a very tiny bit, but she's still extremely good in the hands of Coast. Coast, every single person in their position leads their role for kills, except for Kongquan, who leads that role in supports, leads the league in assists.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely incredible. It just shows how much Coast likes to fight. And even then, they're about 50 assists ahead of the next person for Kongquan. Same with Shrimp.
Interesting, though. Renegades, I like this Kog'Maw pickup, especially alongside a Nunu. Crumbs could be an absolute terror, one of the best counter jungler defenders and counter junglers as well. And the fact that this Kog'Maw could go onto Maple Street, who again carried them in the semifinals, but could just be a poke champ for Alex here. I think Renegades' first 2 picks were very solid.
The question, though, is that a Maple Street Kog'Maw, and then Alex ends up getting a Azir later? So it's a flex pick. Also, it takes away one of Peek and Wolf's best champions, which is the AP Kog'Maw mid. And Peek and Wolf is the guy who wants to sit in the backline, Varus mid, poke champion, make sure that he can actually deal damage without putting himself too much at risk.
So here's interesting, is now Renegades have to pick their top laner next round, which would allow Chris counterpick, as long as Coast take a second to wait here. And I think that's actually the correct choice. Chris, easily the most dominant top laner in the Challenger Series.
He does about 200.
Setting him ahead would be really nice.
He does about 200 more damage per minute than the next highest top laner in Challenger. He's a very carry-oriented top laner that likes to get kills on you and snowball the lane.
Well, interesting science coming out from Team Coast right now, though. It feels like Lucian, despite all the complaints, he had a really bad professional win record, and he's got a low win record in solo queue. A lot of teams have been really going back to this Lucian more than before of late, actually, and it's going to be picked up here. Of course, Lucian Braum, a great dual lane in specific scenario, but still interesting to see the one picked up when there's still champions like Callista on the field.
That's true, but this was always one of Mash's champions, right? He loved the Lucian, he loved the lane bully presence, but combining that with Braum, I remember when Braum was coming out, everybody was so worried about the interaction between him and Lucian, where if you just got the Q on, boom, Light Slinger, you're able to get your passive 2 times.
Ooh, well, Renegades, I'm actually surprised they show Lulu right here. They want so badly to give RF a good matchup, but they show what this comp is already about. That is almost definitely mid lane Lulu that is, I think, guaranteed to be support Morgana at this point, and it's just to protect the Cog.
I love this, though, because Renegades recently, they started to have a little bit of a falling off, and then in playoffs, Urgot and Graves from Maple Street, he was the highest damage dealer on his team in their victories. And to the point that Alex Each was actually building Zeke's Harbinger mid lane to give Maple Street the crit. So this looks like a composition where they're saying, Maple Street, get us into the LCS.
And it might just happen here. So Azir does get locked in for Peek and Wolf. I think Gnar, probably the right blind pick here for Chris. Can be lane dominant, can be a great split pusher. Honestly, Gnar just a great all-around champion, especially for dominant players like Chris here. So Team Coast have their lineup locked in. Just seems like a pretty solid all-around team. Not a lot of poke, but they've got a lot of playmaking.
A lot of options. Good wave clear, good damage, good sustained damage, bit of upfront burst too, good catch. It's pretty well-rounded.
Yeah. So well-rounded team comp for Team Coast. That's going to be their goal here. Renegades very clearly focused on this Kog'Maw, and there's still the small chance Lulu goes top and it's Kog'Maw mid. It just feels very unlikely here for them. But the mind games could be interesting here, but it looks like just a big Juggermaw. The emphasis on Maple Street. Top lane pick. They know it's Gnar up there. I don't think Lulu would survive that matchup well. So what will RF play into this one? Maokai is up. Probably makes the most sense in this kind of composition.
They just swap it and go for an Urgot or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a possibility. That's the threat here.
Oh!
It is top Lulu, and Zed comes out of Alex Ich.
But this is exactly what Pekin Wolf thought wasn't going to happen. He thought Alex Ich was just going to go on poke mid laners, and now this is pretty much as an assassin. You can get, this is the most assassiny assassin pretty much in the game at the moment.
I think he's the most assassiny assassin. You're absolutely right here. The question is, though, exactly what will he be trying to assassinate here? We do have Exhaust in the mid laner from Pekin Wolf. Braum exists as well, and there are some pretty decent disengage tools and counter-engage tools available for Coast, so it's still somewhat of a threat. Renegades, though, putting their weight now on two people's shoulders. Alex Ich in the mid lane, Zed. Maple Street on the AD carry Kog'Maw.
So they're putting it on the veterans of the LCS, people who have competed in it, giving Alex Ich the Zed, see what he can do on that champion. Very excited to see it. And like you said, the Lucian coming up as well. It was picked yesterday, actually, or earlier this morning. First pick.
Yeah, it was first picked by Najin against SKT in Game 1. OQ, of course, a great AD carry here. So interesting to look at some of the matchups as well. I really like Morgana into Braum, by the way. Your ulti goes through his shield, and you can just black shield the passive in the queue very easily. So matchup-wise, I think Kog'Maw actually will survive, which is always a risk against a champion like Lucian. So I actually do like the Renegades bottom lane as far as the matchup's concerned. Now, guys, all throughout this match, we'll be keeping tabs on who you think will earn a spot in the North American LCS tonight. Share your predictions with us on Twitter. Tweet at LOL Esports with the hashtag CSTWin or hashtag RNGWin. We'll check your votes on the Rift in a few minutes. Guys, Game 1 of the best of 5 is coming up. The winner joins the LCS in 2016. And here we go.
Those graphics last like 5 seconds longer than I anticipate. It's awesome. All right, we're into the game. We're on the Rift. And I want to see how Shrimp handles this Nunu from Crumbs, because Shrimp is all about counter jungling. If Crumbs is just taking those camps very quickly and there's no way you can really contest them, Shrimp's going to have to kill him. But it's really hard to kill a Nunu.
Absolutely, yeah, as well. It's going to be up to Crumbs to make some big plays. And the thing is, he says that winning on the LCS stage is, of course, a big deal for him. He's looking to get back into the LCS with a win tonight.
I want to get back into the LCS real bad. And to be honest, I feel like I have this final opportunity against Coast. You know you have the relegation matches afterwards, but this one's really the one that makes it for me. I mean, if we lose, then it's very heartbreaking, and then you got to get back into it, but nobody wants to do that. So I'm taking this as, you know, we got like this final opportunity.
All right, well, Crumbs, starting off on one of the junglers that can make an absolutely devastating impact on the game. A well-played Nunu just makes it feel like there are no options for the enemy team.
This is the style he likes to play.
Yeah, it is.
He likes to play that choke-out style, get the vision control, and especially when it's the most warding jungler and challenger versus the least warding jungler and challenger, there's going to be some gaps in vision. Hopefully Conquan can make up for it. He does lead his position in wards, and it's almost that TIP situation where your jungler's not warding, he's killing people.
So your support does it.
And your support does it more than anybody else in the league to compensate for it.
Yeah, absolutely true. It's actually interesting. In this kind of lineup, Coast, they are most like Impulse in player style, I would say. It's kind of interesting. It's just a random kind of tangent to go for, but we are starting in the game. RF will be double jungling with Crumbs. Standard stuff here. Their top lane, their dual lane rather, sent to the top side. Maple and Vermillia going to get their farm going. Coast basically doing exactly a mirrored start. You see the double jungle with the top laner is the standard early game for most teams.
Helping him out there. Very standard. See what ends up going awry in the lane swap. We're seeing a lot of teams take 2 camps, immediately go for a push before the cannon minion gets there. It's become that kind of new craze, especially when there's no Loft in the game.
Right now, Coast jungling with all 3. Looks like a similar situation as Lulu's still running around.
Oh, is he going to contest or gank Pekin Wolf in the mid lane? We see everybody coming down on the sides.
Conquan goes to a spot to figure out where people are. RF and Crumbs are heading mid. Pekin Wolf does not have a way to dash out. Here's the Ice Blast in. Has to flash early. And that is Summoner Spell down. Good gank by Renegades.
And this is what Renegades needs. We saw at the start of the season, Crumbs and Alex each had the best synergy out of all mid and jungles in Challenger. And it was how they were abusing teams.
Oh, they're coming back. How about 4 people mid? How about learning from TSM in this one?
If you flash
Pekin Wolf is not yet 3.
But this also just allows Alex to zone. Oh, looking for the binding. Look for the binding.
And dodges it cleanly. Takes a little bit of damage, but out he goes. Pekin Wolf identifying how much of a risk he was in, but the problem is this lane is basically frozen there. That cannon minion still being up for a few seconds means it's not going to get any better for Pekin Wolf here.
But looking at the side lanes, they already have this bot lane turret down to half HP. Top, they haven't even pushed it to the turret just yet. So they're actually losing turret DPS while camping Pekin Wolf. So Alex has to make an advantage out of this at some point.
I think they're still fine, though. Spell Thieves is plenty of damage. You can always Blood Boil someone to know. Actually, Renegades not pushing in for the turret. They're not going to kill it nearly as fast as Coast will, trying to revisit the jungle and revisit maybe some ganks. So I want to see what happens in the next roughly 1.5 minutes. If the lanes can swap back, Chris will get this turret gold. He will be ahead of RF in money.
If they bounce this properly, I feel like this is a mistake from RNG.
Well, it was a bet, right? They tried to knock down the mid laner champion, and you know they pay for that by losing pressure on a turret.
Yeah, they got the flash though, so there is pressure in Alex Each's favor. Now they're going to get this early dragon onto Coast's side, so they get an uncontested turret take. They swap Maple up to the top lane. They get free farm over to Chris. And I feel like RNG are just being sluggish around the map right now. They're giving up so much, and they aren't getting anything save for the flash from Pekin Wolf. And if Pekin Wolf is just going to be able to just play safe and do his style that way, it's all for naught.
I absolutely agree. It was a risk that so far has not paid off, but they still got 3 minutes to knock that kill with the flash still being down. Pekin Wolf is being pushed around a little bit, doing some damage to Alex Ich, but this Zed still has potions and is not going to really get killed anytime all that soon. We have the lane swapping back, though the dual lane is back. Mash has double long sword versus a extra Doran's Blade actually up against Maple Street. This 2-on-2 will be interesting. Vermilia has some new wards. Gonquan has a Ruby Crystal and some wards for himself. So again, we are seeing the payoff of having that turret going down, the global gold, and the small farm lead here.
Yeah, Chris getting himself to about a 16 CS lead. And he got
600 gold right now.
He also got soul turret gold. They gave him all the gold, so taking it. Ooh,
nice bind.
Walk right back into it.
All right, Vermilia so far 1 for 2 on binds. Honestly, both of them pretty hard to hit, so solid to get one of them so far. Yeah. But I really am interested in this 2-on-2. I think it means so much for Maple Street to get ahead.
Crumbs. There's no mana.
That's going to get him. Maple Street's got nowhere to go. There's the first blood, and there it is. It finally pays off. Shows back up the Ice Blast, the double flash to get the kill.
And the last time these guys played each other was all about camping the mid lane, but Shrimp was always there earlier on his Lee Sin, kicking Crumbs back. Now, in this matchup, Crumbs is just a little bit further ahead of him. Crumbs is clearing the jungle and getting to these objectives right on time, but look at this.
That's why Morgana's great. You can't actually trigger the Braum passive against Black Shield. It's just impossible if you time it right. So target selection going to be a very big deal, switching and going for someone else instead. That'll leave Maple to hit some damage. Crumbs puts an aggressive ward down to make sure Chris is not going to have any teammates coming in. And a red buff Nunu plus a Lulu with plenty of CC. Just not enough done.
I want to keep a track of Pekin Wolf CS because he doesn't have barrier, he doesn't have flash, and it's already level 6 for Alex Each. Goes for the Seeker's Arm Guard early, but they're still just even in CS in mid lane.
Even in CS, but still first blood assist is nice. It's 200 gold for that one. That feels solid if you're Alex here. He's got the Vamp Scepter and Boots, which are very important in the matchup. Shrimp is getting revealed though, so RF's just harassing him as he tries to steal Gromp. I don't know if it's going to be... Yeah, I think this is a bit greedy by Shrimp, honestly. I think that was probably not the best. And it's Nunu going to try to steal it away. They both have Smite. They just fight for the Gromp. Nunu's supposed to win that one, though.
Does he, though?
Mega Nard, RF flashed the wall! Oh, wow, RF! Just didn't see it coming. They didn't even burn flash. That was just Chris finding it.
Chris just jumped over to him, got him right into the wall so quickly, but that's the experience advantage, right? Yep. RF still level 4. Was not expecting Chris to be level 6 already. He's 41 to 14 CS.
Oh,
that's
man.
the advantage they've given him.
I mean, I think that is the big key advantage of Coast, though, is Chris is objectively the best top laner in Challenger, and RF, I think, is not top 2, so that actually disparity is rather big, and Chris, so far, abusing that well. We still sit a 1,000 gold game. Kills traded equally. That turret still means quite a bit. Alex Itch gets the blue buff from Crumbs. Crumbs only level 4 on this Nunu, whereas Shrimp is already 5 and well on his way towards 6.
Thinking about how Lulu fits into this composition, it'll be part of the 4-man unit, and then Alex Each will be the split pusher later on.
Yeah.
So Alex Each is really the one who has to be able to beat Chris in the split push, so if Chris gets further ahead of RF, it's not that big a deal for RF. It's a huge deal for Alex.
Interesting things on that, though, is we have seen Renegades play many Alex Itch split push centric compositions. He's played Yasuo, he's played Irelia in the mid lane. They've been successful games for that team. But one thing that's interesting, though, is Chris is against a magic damage top laner, but late game is facing a physical damage split pusher. And that's going to be interesting as far as itemization choices. If he goes Hex Drinker, his Alex Ich matchup gets much worse.
I don't think he'll go Hex Drinker. There isn't really enough
I don't think so
magic
either,
damage to actually warrant that. But if he does,
he's against Kog'Maw, right? Like there is magic damage on the team fight in general.
Yeah, that's
Chris
true.
can't ignore MR in a team fight. It's very interesting. Like, it's a weird, peculiar scenario for Chris to be in. Oh. Lands the stun, beautifully done. Still level 5. Lulu not quite having the ultimate, about 3 minutes away from that one. But as the house misses, all is well.
It still looks like a freeze for Chris, too. Chris just has every advantage in this lane. This is looking terrible for Renegades at this moment. RF is going to get put even further behind, and he has to risk himself. You see, he backs all the way up from the lane, all the way back from experience, because Shrimp showed himself on the bottom side of the map.
Yep. And that just means more and more farm comes in for this Gnar. Lulu having to hide. And by the way, bot lane is a freeze if he wants it, so it just gets worse and worse over time. Top lane, though, is under a little bit of pressure. Crumbs slinking around to make a play, but Shrimp is coming up behind him. I don't think this turret dive is going to work. There's not enough damage to actually kill off Braum or Lucian. Shrimp now realizing this was warded. I think he did see the Nunu. Okay, now he for sure knows Nunu's around. He could have killed that ward, actually. Switch to melee form, attack, W, attack, attack. You get it. Minor misplay. Missed a ward kill. Lack of applause for the missed ward kill. Chris, though, level 7 versus 5. RF is getting absolutely destroyed, and with Nunu spotted, they know RF has no teammates around, can't get the hop to land, though, and once again, they push in. They know they knocked around the jungler. Maple Street just doesn't take much damage, though, yet again. It's Black Shield very strong against Braum.
And if the Kog'Maw is able to just stay even in CS like this all throughout the game, definitely has better scaling.
Oh, this is actually pretty good for Coast, though. They're going to have awkward recalls from Renegades. Maple will finish the recall on Kog, and Morgana Nunu can't really defend this turret very well. Mash might choose to recall instead of push the turret down, but it was actually... pressure was available here.
It's really big that they weren't able to get that turret early on. I want to go back to that because they traded a turret for a flash on the mid laner, which
became a kill.
Which ultimately resulted in a kill. But trading the turret and the pressure in the long lane is punishing RF so hard because Chris is playing it definitely the way you should be playing it.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's having secondary effects here that I wasn't necessarily considering, and maybe that Renegades weren't considering, but Coast have reacted to incredibly well here. Now, thankfully, it is top Lulu, right? She doesn't exactly have a giant gold requirement to be a useful champion, and maybe it'll be okay, and the gold lead might lie to you. But Coast already got Dragon 1. That was also part of what happened because Renegades swapped their duo top side. That's the tax you pay for choosing those lanes. And Coast on respawn with the top laners, or the duo laners still up there. No threat at all. Braum already got the Dragon. Coast get a very clean, very easy Dragon pickup, and they get farther ahead.
So Chris shoves out the bottom lane, gets his last bit of CS, and then he goes top.
With
and
teleport.
Now he's up against Maple Street, so you can make a play on the opposite side of the map. And of course, the Kog'Maw's not going to be able to follow you.
Yeah, that's very true. So interesting now. Now there's actually gank pressure on the bottom side that Coast can exert. We'll see what happens. Remilia once again wants to make this happen. Conpun gonna face into the brush, has to put the shield up, but here comes the ulti in from Zed. Exhaust may not be enough. Ignite comes in, Crumbs gets the kill. Peekaboo doing some damage though. TP comes in a bit late. Remilia, one hit from Dead, can't quite reach. There's the hop, there's the Q. Boomerang from downtown. Chris picks it up. 2-2 in this game, and mid lane pressured.
This is the play I was talking about. RF doesn't even TP, and he's too busy trying to CS. Wild Growth would have been very helpful there if he had TP'd on time.
This is incredibly well played by Coast. Their early to mid game is absolutely wonderful here. The laning phase itself was a bit of a wash, but their mid game play is so strong here. 12 minutes in, mid lane tier 2 already under fire. They're gonna kill it, and the flash Cocoon! They're going for Crumbs! They're gonna get him! Wow, Coast with the hardcore dive pays off.
Cocoon doesn't pull aggro. If you land it, you're
so
just like,
solid.
Oh, there we go. Now we can kill you. There's no reason to not go for that play. Really well played there by Coast. Crumbs way too far out, had no business being there.
And now Conquan is dueling Maple Street. She and Kog'Maw actually gonna get stunned up here. I don't know how well it's going to go after this one, but it's not looking the best. Oh, dodge the Q. That was a pretty big one. The slow might have made a big difference.
Oh man, when Braum is just going to town on your Kog'Maw, feel pretty bad about how the game's been going. 4,000 gold advantage, 12 minutes in.
Wow. Yeah, very big lead for Coast right here. And a very, very well played mid game.
Conquan soaks up so much damage here. The Death Mark isn't going to kill him, so he actually needs the Ignite on top of it from Alex. They immediately turn. Alex is too far forward. He's stunned, so he actually has to blow his flash to get out of there, but Chris's TP and hop boomerang. Really, really nicely executed there.
You know, Conquan actually might have lived. I think he misclicked exhaust and hit Remillion instead of Alex Ich. If he stops 35% of Zed's damage, I don't think he dies there. And even still, it was still a team fight win for Coast. They're looking so good right now. The lane once again swapped back to the top side. Dragon's already gone, and Baron's not for 7 minutes, so really the lane you go for is only about what turret you want to kill. And it looks like Coast are happy to keep pressuring this. Scored nothing else, nothing to kill mid lane, nothing to kill bot lane.
And Pika Wolf has stayed up in CS this entire time.
Yeah.
Everybody on Coast is just beating their lane opponent in CS. Even supports, right? Doesn't mean much, but even supports.
Yeah, that's kind of free. That's a bit lying.
I know. It's still... Supports
but
usually
right.
don't count those in those.
I
But
know,
anyway,
I know.
They're still winning in CS despite the kill onto Pekin Wolf and all the pressure that they put in the mid lane. It hasn't paid off just yet. Zonya's Hourglass completed. He's ready to be able to pressure other lanes, and you see him going top because Alex has 2 turrets taken mid.
Yeah, well, mid lane's going to go to equivalency, but we've still got the top laner here, or the top lane here, the mid laner coming up there. Alex not going to make it there. Turns back around and push the mid lane down, but yeah, the attempt of play is still happening. The gold lead now 4,500 is actually growing over time.
And with everybody in the top lane, Chris just gets to pressure bottom and throw boomerangs at RF all day.
This is actually a risk, though, because RF has teleport and Chris does not, so the chance of a 5v4 is real. This is a risk from Coast. I actually don't think they should be too aggressive because they have such a lead. Wait for the TP timer, and it's a safer way to play the game.
I don't know how scared I am, though, of the Lulu.
Just it being 5v4 at all, though, right? It's just, to me, it's such a risk.
It is a risk. But honestly, compared to other top laners or people who could actually TP in, a level 8 Lulu coming in
that's fair.
Is probably one of the least scary.
And right now, it seems like Coast aren't too worried about it. Shrimp cannot walk another brush forward, as he will be revealed by the trinket. Unfortunately, they know about this, so Renegades gotta be able to play safely enough. Poke on Maple doesn't really much matter. Decent culling. Doesn't do too much damage to the champions, though. Ooh, good zaps, though. They're getting the health bars lower slowly and over time. Shrimp trying to keep the wards up, and he did, by the way, go Sightstone.
Yep.
That's actually Juggernaut Merc Tread Sightstone. That's actually the most utility focus you can go on Elise here. Oh, greedy farmer, but still playing for the team quite nicely. Being the second frontline tank behind Braum. And top lane nearly going down. Crumb's not able to defend this one much either. Pekin Wolf making his second trip back to the top side. And this next wave should mean the turret going down. Alex is actually recalling on a ward.
I do like the Cinder Hulk on Elise in this case because they already have so much magic damage with Azir. You just need frontliners to keep people away.
Yep, I think it's the correct choice for sure. We're going to see top lane and outer going down. 4 turrets to 0, 2 dragons to none. The next one comes up in only a minute. Coast actually traditionally have the longest average wins of Challenger. They take so long to close their games out. They almost always get Dragon 5. You had the stat, it's like 4.1 dragons per game.
They average about 3.9 dragons a game.
Yeah.
That's ludicrous. 4 dragons a game.
Average of 4 dragons a game. Like that, that is exceptionally high here. And Coast are in such a fast pace to get Dragon 5 early, though. And just watching Coast games, they're going to get Dragon 5 this game. I'll just call it now. And I'll be wrong, but that's okay. Yeah. Honestly, this is such a good setup for Coast. Everything that could have gone right pretty much did.
Yeah. I think Renegades, it all fell apart when solo turret gold was given to Chris. Chris was given a lane freeze, and then Renegades got a flash mid, which resulted in a kill. That's not a worth trade, especially the way that Coast played it out. They played it out perfectly well.
I do want to give props to RF, though. He has remained -50 in an abysmal matchup.
Yeah.
He was down 2 levels and a bunch of farm, and it just split with Chris from now. That is actually super hard. I would have fed if I were him. And actually now top lane getting pushed back in. Maple Street off of a solid recall timing. Going to go back up in here. Phage, and she gets the first turret of the game. Renegades back on the board a bit here. Trying to bring it back in, but you know, that's okay. Coast knows what's happening. Dragon number 3 is going to be theirs.
Yep, they put Nash in the bot lane to shove that out. They allow them to go after the top turret. They might be able to get to over time.
Oh, this is interesting because Coast can go hard for bottom lane tier 2. They can join Mash with the Braum and the Elise. And depending on how well Chris can wave clear, that could be a turret for nothing.
And Mash is the shot caller, too. You know he's going to pull people towards him.
There they go. There, like, I don't know if Zed can 1v3 this. The Azir can shove the wave, then join, then make it a 4v1. And Alex can try to wave clear, but I think this could be very interesting. 4 guys top lane as well, though. Bloodboy with Cogba does plenty of damage. Alex does go down. He trades for this ward, but that's all right. Here comes the push. Both teams trying to knock down parts of the base. Top lane tier 2 is going to go down. So does bot lane.
But it's 2 inhibitor turrets that are about to be contested here. Peek and Wolf's going after one. Azir can turret bomb very effectively, and then you also have Mash, who's just pushing out the bottom lane. There's way too much pressure. Chris, he'll try to stop some backs here with his boomerang, see what happens.
Coast don't all in as much as I think they could have, though. The turrets themselves not worth a lot of gold, so you don't need it for the boost in power, but they really just mostly focus on getting the map controlled. Mid lane is down to half, bot lane barely got touched at all, and a blue buff steal, of course, is nice. Coast chooses to not go for an inhibitor turret.
Oh, he went in.
There's the exhaust and the Q into stun.
Yep, didn't even need Shrimp there. Just very, very fast pickup. Not able to snap back to his shadow for that 1 second.
And that's why I'm glad every single support should be going exhaust against melee assassins, because you just stymie what they're trying to do. Smart by Conquest. And that's, by the way, a preview of what can happen with all these further Alex pushes. Like I said, I really like the fact that there's a Braum here and an exhaust and an Elise, because you can stuff those engages.
Wonder if Alex, if they end up losing this game, will go back to a different champion that is pokey.
Very potentially. I mean, this seemed like a really interesting plan by Renegades, right? Come into the game saying, we're going to change the style, we're going to focus mid, we're going to get Alex ahead, and he's going to crush Peek and Wolf. I think that's actually smart. I think this is the best one-on-one matchup for Renegades. If you were to pick a player differential, I think this would be the most Renegade-favored one.
When I come into a game, though, and I want to crush mid lane, I don't pick Nunu. I pick something that's going to gank heavily and apply a lot of pressure and have good 2-on-2 skirmishing.
You're right, going for like a Gragas and like forcing that to go even farther. Yeah, I guess then it's like a hedge between that and then Maple Street just having a Nunu Cogma.
Yeah, they just want to have a 4-man unit that they protect, and then Alex each split push. But getting Alex each ahead would involve having kind of a better jungler to actually execute on that plan.
I feel that. You're right. It does diminish plan A to help plan B. So interesting to watch this comp play out here. Still sitting at about 6,000 gold for Coast, though. That last trade of turrets was so much better for these guys. It just felt like they'd gotten much more out of it.
It's a Baron time. Coast, they do a lot of 20-minute Barons. There is TP on Chris. He has priority bot lane. He's still up 3 levels over RF.
Oh, dear. Well, RF is at least close to 11, so at least it'll turn back soonish. But yeah, it's over 2, and right now it is at 3.
There you go.
And now the jungle's being taken away. This is actually rough. Crumbs is no longer really able to get farmed. Not that it matters a lot on Nunu, but just the golden experience on the map is going much more towards Coast over time. And that makes it get worse and worse and worse for Renegades here. In game 1 here, Chris pressing in on RF. Looks like it's going to be Black Cleaver into Frozen Mallet. And once he gets that item, by the way, I believe he can chase RF forever. And this is a good Glitter Lance.
And you were talking about how Coast just keep taking the jungle now. I was looking at some interesting stats, so bear with me on this. But Coast take 60% of the jungle in a game on average.
Yeah.
Now to give you some reference, when you're winning, of course you're going to be taking more jungle. But Fnatic in Europe, 18 wins, they only control 58% of the jungle. So Coast, relative to their opponents, take more of the jungle, even in their losses on average, than Fnatic does.
Yeah.
That's how oriented they are on counter jungling when they have an advantage. They take your Raptors with their mid laner, they put Chris inside the side by lanes by himself, and he takes those camps, and then Shrimp is always counter jungling. They control it through and through. You saw them get the blue buff previously, and they're just going to keep doing that.
Well, it's still looking good. The lead's still sizable. We're going to see the state of the minion waves as Coast continues to control the jungle and everything else here.
They're monsters.
They are monsters.
This is what I hate in solo queue.
When there's nothing to farm. Yeah. And then your mid laner takes like the Raptors. You're like, but
can I at least smite it? Can I just get some of that, please? But no.
The answer is always no. All right, Nashor's Tooth, Zonia's for Peek and Wolf. So he's actually got the ability to survive the Zed all in pretty cleanly, and also just has the high DPS build going in. He's a hard target. Chris has about 4, okay, I'm going to say 3,500 health.
That's a repel onto the Baron.
Oh, man.
They saw him go up, though.
And Zed was bot side, though, which means, though, that there can't be enough reinforcements yet. 4,000 health, and you're still, though, you've got a flash Nunu. This is a risk here for Coast. He's got Black Shield on. He's going to get it! Crom steals the Baron, but now what's going to be the backside of this one? They kill him off, but there's a Kog'Maw looking to deal damage. Conquan is a hit away from dying, flashes out and stays alive. Zed not into this fight. He's actually still on the bottom side of this fight. Here's a TP in from Mininar. He's going to go for the slow, lands it. Remilia's going to die for this one. Now Maple Street on the chase down, has Black Shield on, won't do enough damage. It's a 3-kill pickup for Baron. Mash does dash away.
3 for 0, but they give up the Baron. That was a Nunu with the Black Shield. You're trying to keep him out of the pit. You can't. He's going to flash in, and he's going to try to steal it.
That was a communication issue, though. Wait 5 seconds, and then have Peek and Whip just ult him out. Like, literally flash ult him, and then E back into the pit. You get a secured Baron. Communication error. Great steal by Crumbs. And we have a wash.
That is one of the problems with Coast, though, because Shrimp is Korean. He doesn't speak a lot of English. He's getting the basics down.
Yeah.
Kong Kwan is actually a very good person to have on this lineup because he speaks both English and Korean, and he understands cultural barriers and things like that. So he's able to translate mid-game, but that takes time. Lost in translation there. You can see Peek and Wolf just tries to jump over the wall. Doesn't work out for him. Should have waited just a little bit longer. Stop DPS. Poke him over the wall. You guys can tank Baron for a little bit longer. You're fine.
And it was rank 5 consumed, by the way. 1,000 true damage to add to the 700-ish smite.
It's a miss smite, too. Smited it down to about 200.
Yep. I mean, at that point, you're just trying to bet against the Nunu cast animations, hope you can get it right. And
at least Q versus Nunu Q.
Significant disparity by about 4x. Dragon of the game finally goes to Renegades. The Baron buff on a couple members seems to be enough power to force Coast away, and Renegades are maybe mounting the beginnings of a comeback. They're still down 6,000, but that 6,000 gold lead has remained the same for a while. Coast play very long games because their shot calling not the sharpest in the middle to late game, and you're seeing it pay off right there, giving a Baron away and losing control on Dragons. Actually really relevant here.
Not setting up in time for the Dragon is big. Delays that 5th Dragon, which, you know, ultimately delays...
You just killed 3 people. How do you not set up Dragon?
Exactly. Which ultimately delays, of course, the game time. But giving up...
Kog'Maw scales.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's another big thing.
And
Is
Lulu
this
catches up.
This Kog'Maw is just going to shred through people very effectively, especially since Chris, he's all HP. Percent HP is... health damage is really good against that.
Yep. Zed has 2 versions of that on his items and his passive. Kog'Maw has 2 versions of that on his items and his W. Life could be difficult. Right now we have Mash boldly actually splitting against the Zed. That would always scare me a little bit. Kong waiting the wings without exhaust. You would have to ult to knock up Zed. Peek and Whip still getting a lot of farm though. Has the Magic Pen core. Death Cap or Void Staff I think should be next for him. Could be an even bigger team fight threat. Keep in mind, an actual 5-on-5, Renegades still only have that 1 threat, and I would still take Natural Truth Azir plus Lucian over Love-Boiled Kog'Maw.
Kog'Maw Zed with a lot of physical damage there, relying a lot on Kog'Maw's magic damage, his percent HP.
I think it's solid. I think there's a decent mix in this comp.
Yeah, I like the Frozen Heart from Shrimp, though. That's definitely going to stop both of their major damage dealers.
Absolutely.
RF with the Hourglass and a very poor man's build, because he's down 90 CS at this point.
All right, mid lane pushed around. Alex, it's chunked out by a nice culling from Mash, going halfway between Phantom Dancer and the Blade of the Ruin King. I actually think he might stop on Zeal and go into Ruin King, and he has Zeal for the move speed, which is an interesting build. I'm not sure if it's optimal, but we'll see as it develops. Sitting actually, the gold lead is growing, by the way. We're up more than 7,500 now, so Coast, despite giving up Dragon, have still continued to crush minion waves better, take the jungle better, get farther ahead here. And Baron's timed up at this point, so assume it didn't happen. And Coast continue to farm up pretty nicely. Taking the time on this one, though. Next Dragon is very far away, as is Baron.
Chris, this is the duel I'm talking about.
Does not land the stun into Alex. Has to flash away. That is big. Chris ulted and flashed to get out. Big summoner spell down. And Chris has got to be careful. He does not have teleport. He does not have home guards at this time. And he'll have to buy some armor items. Probably I would say, okay, he is going for the Randuin's Omen. I was going to think Thornmail, but it's not what he's going for here. Bigger health pool, definitely relevant. Chris sitting at 2,800 health while Mininar.
I like all the wards in Renegade's jungle. I would like to see Shrimp pick up the upgraded sweeper. He's sitting on 1,400 gold, 1,500 gold now after this camp clear. But RF, oh man, he is down 3,000 gold in the top lane. Basically a full item behind. Oh, look at this though.
Looks for the flash Q. Alex is going to flash away, misses the ulti as well. Nothing picked up. Youmuu's to run, and actually Mash not really getting a lot of damage, but Shrimp can look for it. Good dodge on the cocoon. Alex gets away.
They still have absolute control of this game, though. Up 7,000 gold. They have a lot of turret pressure. They have split push. They have.
He just ignores him. I mean, takes some damage, but consume heals for a lot.
Wolf basically saying, one day I will have a Rylai's, and that will not be a good decision.
Until then, though, it heals for 250, and Nunu's going to feel okay.
Let's see. There's a minute and 15 on Baron, and like I said, Coast still have priority in these lanes. They can still push them up very far and force Renegades to shove them all out. So next Baron comes around, is Crumb's going to have another Miracle Steal? Even if they do, they're still just waiting on spells to... Not spells, they're waiting on levels and power spikes. They're waiting for late game on Renegade's side.
But, I mean, I don't think either team is strictly... like obviously better in late game. Of course, Renegades needs to wait because they're so far behind, but I'm curious to see how the waiting game goes, though. Again, Renegades, I think actually one of the smartest teams in terms of shot calling in Challenger. I would say as you get to closer and closer tense situations, I would trust Renegades calling better. And I don't think Coast should allow that kind of situation to happen. I think they need to keep the pressure on and find ways to push farther ahead. Granted, they got so far ahead early. We're only 29 minutes in. I feel like we've been talking about team fights for half an hour already.
They got really far ahead. I remember 12 minutes. It was a 4,000 gold lead. RF, though, still now over 100 CS back, and he had to just blow his flash in a one-on-one just now. Setting up for the Baron, though. 10 seconds on it. Everybody on Coast backed, so they forfeited some vision control of the area for items, breakpoints. Rylai's Crystal Scepter completed. Locket completed for Shrimp.
I want to see Coast bait this. I want to see them keep pressure on mid. Force Renegades to react to Baron and then get behind them and push mid down.
They're all waiting in this push. They're looking for the pick.
Puts the shield up. Ulti's going to stun a lot. He's not dead yet. He's going to get away pretty cleanly. Has to burn some spells for that one. Still getting pummeled by Maple Street. The flash. Oh, good dodge by Conquan. And a flash from Crumbs is actually a big deal. It means he cannot steal Baron with flash anymore as Conquan keeps running. And Alex is going to lose the duel. Peek and Woof and Mash. It's a 2-on-1. They knock him down. Support dies, but that's still worth it as Coast have pressure on the map.
Is Chris going to catch anybody with the boomerang? Doesn't look like it.
No, Coast could just push mid
right now. They're going to keep going.
This is interesting. They're going to go for the push on the kills. Mash has got to be careful.
This is why they have so many kills in the game.
Mash flashes in. He wants Maple. They're going to get him Black Shield or not, and Mash still stays alive. He's life-stealing, but he's going to take so much damage. Gets chunked down. Can't steal enough. Gets killed up, but there's still more kills coming through. It's a 4 for 2, all said and done. Crumb's going to be the 5th, and that means Baron.
It's a full ace there, 5 for 2, and they still have great damage dealers in the tank left. They're going to pick up this Baron, no problem, just like you said.
What a smart call by Coast to go for the kills there. It does pay off. I think they had the road in on mid, but the kills were correct. They get Baron off it as well. Big lead for Coast.
Coast are just the biggest proponents of instrumental violence. They're going to kill your entire team to get other things. People talk about how kills aren't the way you basically win League of Legends. It's not team deathmatch.
But they unlock the way you win League of Legends.
They understand that a little bit less than everybody else. They average the most kills per game, and like I said, everybody leads every role on this team. 4 kills, save for Conquan. Oh man, they just keep forcing this too. They have the inside track, they cross through. You can see even just flashing over the wall to start this, get the red buff on to take out Maple Street, and they realize once they kill Maple, very easy to go through the rest of the lineup. These are basically all supports sitting here.
Yeah. They kill the big damage dealers, really smartly called, and Coast get control of Dragon. Number 4 is theirs. It would have been 5, but here's the play in towards Chris. But he's a pretty durable guy. Alex gets stunned up. He's caught alone. Can't go anywhere, jump or not. It gets taken out. 13-5. Coast have control even more.
You keep thinking these are going to be duels. It's going to be one-on-ones. Nope.
Nope.
2-3 people show up every time.
This is what happens when Coast has actually maintained map control quite well. Once again, Shrimp going for Sightstone, getting some wards up, and doing a good job of making sure that his team get to the fights on time and with the right people.
Baron, 4th Dragon, ready to push down these turrets. See what they could do in the siege situation. Peek and Wolf, he does have the Rylai's Crystal Scepter. A lot of damage on this Azir. You can see his turret goes up, ready to siege. While Chris is pushing bottom. He doesn't have TP, but he's just a stone's throw away right now.
Yeah, shouldn't be too hard for him to show up on this one, but sieging going to be difficult. Alexich missing his ult even after he respawns for a few seconds here. Chris getting harassed, but you know, not so much. Still has not really bought MR that's not Merc Treads, but doesn't seem to care. Baroned up minion waves are nice.
Yeah, in Meganar he has 330 AD. Elixir of Wrath already. He's using his ultimate to basically be a gigantic heal in a team fight. Yep. I love Elixir of Wrath on Nars.
Pretty solid. Remember way back when Dan did go blue elixir on Rammus for the cooldown on Ball Curl, as it was more durability than going for the tanky elixirs. I thought that was a really smart choice by him. Back in like Season 1 days. Shout out to Dan Din. Oh, Chris, though, jumps on, gets the shield. Yeah, out he goes. Alex realizes this is not going to work well for me. And just blows a couple of item cooldowns, but mid lane under pressure. Bot lane already dead. Chris unlocks that one. And now without Deathmark, Coast can feel a lot safer. Locket shield popped actually by Shrimp, and they stun up Crumbs. There's the push, there's the kill. Stolen away by Conquan. He wants in on that metric, and now bottom inhibitor down.
And they back up immediately. They don't even go towards mid. They're going to back, buy items, clean out the jungle on their way out. Is that what I'm seeing here, Shrimp? Do you want a grump?
Yes, of course he does.
Yeah.
Shrimp wants a feast here.
He pings all the camps. Take them all.
It's a shrimp buffet down here in the jungle, man. He's going to get as much gold as he wants from it.
Maximize it. Oh, he just counter jungles that too. Make sure they can't pick it up. Yep. This is the starving style that Shrimp likes to have, not just with vision, but just CS. You can see his gold. He's only 1,000, less than 1,000 behind his laners. Yep. Some of them.
This is the standard Coast gold distribution, by the way. Their top ender gets a ton of emphasis here. Actually, Chris, the richest man in the game, first to hit 14,000 gold, but Shrimp is never far behind that one. I mean, this is Coast style. There are 4 places to get farm, and they use all 4 of them. And it's a very rich play style, lots of kills in the team, and so far they have not found really competition in the Challenger Series. Jat said he wants to see how these guys will do against higher performing teams. And the way things are going, Coast will find those teams in the spring split, but we are still multiple Nexus kills away from that point.
Yeah. Oh, Chris found Crumbs in the jungle. Can't get over the walls. There you go, you flash. But you're still slowed. Frozen
Mallet, Hyper, not a chance. They're going to give the kill over to Chris. He steals it. Of course he will. 3-0-8 for him. Pretty flawless game on this Gnar right here. Had to blind pick it, did wonderfully. Top lane tier 2 is going to go down. Looks like the inhibitor turret now in their sights. 30 seconds on Crumbs' respawn.
This is what happens when a lane swap goes poorly for you and you don't play it out right. You can see RF.
There's more. There's more. Zonia's popped into the back line. They go. Mabels are going to get jumped on. Zonia's popped by Peekin to stay alive. Alex exhausted, runs away, dodges the stuns, but it's still 2 kills picked up. Top and inhibitor turret goes down. The inhibit self will also fall. And Coast getting more and more and more. There's a minion wave in the bot lane. They might push to win the game off this.
Yep, they're walking towards it, not toward that middle turret, and they're just going to try to bomb these turrets down and use all the damage they have.
Nunu's back up, but the guy he's supposed to buff in this Kog'Maw is not here. There's just not damage on this team anymore. Coast trying to push in, trying to make it a 36-minute win on this one. Turret number 1 heavily under fire. The minions are still there. There's turret number 1. Crumb still in the front line, getting harassed down. And this will actually be Coast backing off. Maple Street's up in 5 seconds. They don't want to risk this one. They've got a dragon to kill in 2 minutes. And that could be the game-winning push then for Coast.
You just want them to get 5th dragon because you called it.
At least they're sitting on their average for 4.
That's true.
At this point, though, if I was a shot caller, I would say be calm, go dragon 5.
Yeah, shove mid, shove out some side waves. We have TP.
Just sit in mid for a while and just chill. Get your elixirs, be ready to go. I would not go for Baron, though. I would just do dragon 5 into push. Even though it's only 15 seconds afterwards. I don't think you need Baron here, and it's actually a small risk of getting it stolen. All right.
Could be exactly that. Shove the mid lane. Ward up your right side.
He's calling to kill Scuttle Crab. And there's actually, this is what's so good about Coast, by the way, is they have enough wards in the jungle to see where Renegades are. Renegades cannot death rush because they'd see him going in. And that actually allows like someone to go solo the Scuttle Crab while feeling safe doing so. Really small point, but actually really matters in recall situations like this, that you know you're not going to get surprised.
Oh man, Chris doesn't even go for an MR item. He feels like he doesn't need it. And I like that his build is targeted towards splitting versus Alex. We pointed that out very early on, that he's just shut down RF very hard.
He's actually double RF's minion farm at this point.
Yeah, this is...
It's a significant disparity here. Mid lane under fire. A little bit of damage going through. Actually pretty nice culling. Wow, Crumbs! Oh, Chris, I think he thought he had flash and looked for it. Okay, mid lane under fire. It's going to go down. They do not wait for Dragon after all. 12 seconds on that spawn, but third inhib's going to be picked up cleanly here. And there's minions coming into the base. This could be game 1 right now for Coast. Renegades need a miracle to survive this battle, but so much damage comes out of Peekin Wolf. The next wave comes in right now. There's a super on the bot side. Top lane pushing in at the same time, as well as reinforcements from mid. There's the minion wave gone. Here's the push. The last turret standing. 38 minutes in, there's go to the back line. He tries to do some damage on Zed. Now Crumbs in the front, gonna get jumped on. Peekin Wolf knocks him around. Crumbs falls, and there's still damage coming through. RF ults himself. Will Zonas to stay alive. Vermilia on the fountain, taking some damage, goes down. Top lane turret's gone. There's the Nexus opened up. 38 minutes on the dot. The Nexus going down, and game 1 goes to Coast.
in honestly a clear-cut fashion from the lane swap get-go.
Yeah.
Exploiting a mistake. You don't take that first turret in response to the lane swap, well, they have a gigantic lead over you, and Wolf was able to diffuse all the pressure and dissipated everything that was coming at him. He blew a flash, he died once, but he stayed even in CS. So Coast was just mounting this gold lead off of freezing lanes on the side, and Chris brought that home. He brought the gold in for the team, and that gold advantage just off of CS too.
Yep, highest CS in the game, highest gold in the game. His co-participation of 15, also highest on the team. Chris did a lot of work in that one, building a pretty good hybrid of damage and tank, going for a last item, Ruin King as well, to make that one fun. And Coast, I mean, this Coast game looked like Coast games. It was, you know, a early to mid-game win off of having very strong plays, primarily from Chris, abusing his just raw skill level. He's too good for Challenger, it feels like.
It keeps happening. It keeps happening.
Every time. You know, Chris keeps getting the LCS. This would be his third direct qualification into the LCS, and if you count the fact that he left... Actually, no, sorry. This is the same team as previous Coast, kind of. But yeah, his third time qualifying directly into the LCS, having a poor performance on his team, and then saying, well, I'm still going to crush Challenger and go right back into it.
We're going to make a point that it's a different team?
Yeah, and I realized
there's three new members.
It was Velocity Coast, but then it was Coast again.
But there's three new members on this team.
It's
so
hard to say that it was
different.
a different... It's a different roster, but it is the same team, same organization.
Okay.
I would argue that like Fnatic is still Fnatic in that case. It's splitting hairs. It doesn't really matter. Either way, yes, new lineup. Once again, Chris is here. Once again, he's crushing in the Challenger Series. Coast up 1-0. And for more on tonight's first round, I'm going to send it down to the guys on the analyst desk.
Thank you, gentlemen. I want to start off right at the beginning, champion select here, because we saw Elise go in the second rotation here, someone that we might have expected to go a little bit sooner than that.
Yeah, it's strange because it does feel in a lot of ways like Elise and Nidalee are the two top-tier junglers, and you could very, very early on tell what Renegades was going for when they did Kog'Maw and Nunu. It's like, all right, protect the Kog'Maw. And Elise was just a free choice for Shrimp after that. It was an interesting champ select nonetheless.
I agree. Imagine if RNG, in the first rotation, instead of picking, I think it was Lulu and Nunu?
Yeah, they picked Cog and Nunu. Instead of
Nunu,
if they just picked Elise.
Yeah, if they picked Elise and Cog, even if the Cog is there and they know it's a Cog, they don't know if Alex is playing it mid or if Maple is playing it bottom. So you can make your team comp a poke composition with the Elise and the Kog'Maw mid, or you can have it on bottom and do whatever you want with it. But Elise and Kog'Maw would make a lot more options for them in team comp, and they just kind of choke themselves into one composition right off the bat.
Yeah. Right, it also put them into the situation where they needed to get to late game. They needed to scale. But Coast, as we saw, got ahead very early on in this game.
Yeah, well, one thing that can be said is Coast has had a tendency to not be able to close games. So in that sense, the Kog'Maw made maybe a little bit more sense with the Nunu say, we're going to get to 45 minutes and then Kog'Maw is going to kill everyone. But if you're going to start the game and invest 2 ganks in the mid lane, and then that sacrifices a turret and a dragon, that's not a good recipe for getting to late game.
Right, yeah, we saw multiple attempts there by 3 members of Renegades into the mid lane, wasting a lot of time early. Turret and dragon go to Coast. They even make a return gank into the mid lane. Once a gold lead has been established, we actually have that replay. We're going to pull that up onto your screen. 11 minutes and 30 seconds into the game, Jat. Take us through this one.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell RNG was just really set on getting Alex each ahead because I think that was core to their strategy of getting the game late, as if they could stall it with the split pushing Zed. But as we see here, like, Coast was just ready to respond in any way. Yes, Kong Kwan was caught, but they were able to answer with a teleport. Peking Wolf is absolutely there. They have the exhaust to delay the kill in the first place. Shrimp was able to match Crumbs, and Elise is a better skirmisher than the Nunu in that situation. And off of those players being low, they picked up 2 more turrets on top of trading the kills.
And even then, that gank middle lane, Crumbs got the kill, so Alex didn't even get ahead there. He didn't gain anything. He just got, I don't know, maybe 25 gold off the assist.
And the person who got more ahead there was Chris for Coast. We saw this massive disparity between the 2 top laners. RF was just getting manhandled on that Lulu by Chris, and it kind of relegated the rest of Renegades to having to clear waves the entire time because of the pressure that was on the map.
Yeah.
That's a big weakness in their composition there, is they didn't get Alex ahead, which meant they had no split push, which kind of defeated the purpose of their comp. They didn't really have a front-to-back comp. If they had, say, an Azir or a Victor or something like that, they'd at least have a big damage dealer who poses a threat besides Maple. In that game, only Maple was a threat, and Zed just couldn't get going, so they just couldn't make anything out of that.
Now, all this being said, even with this gold lead that Coast had accrued, we did see a small moment of weakness here in that they had the Baron stolen away from them, right? If you're looking for ways to throw a game away where you have a 7K gold lead at 23 minutes, well, giving away a Baron steal is one of the ways to do that. We actually have this clip. We're going to pull it up as well, 23 minutes into the game. And if you don't mind Porpoise walking us through this, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, so here they try to clear the vision around Baron, and this is their team comp's goal, is to just clear all the vision, but they actually got vision of Elise repelling there, and that was a huge, I'd say, misplay, is just to not be patient with that, and they actually saw them start it, and now they're coming through the back, and they should just stop this Baron by this point, because the Consume Smite is right there. It's almost a for sure steal, and they just let him jump in and get the steal, and now all they can do is just kill Crumbs, and that's a Baron for just one kill. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, and one thing I really liked, Porpoise, is when we were watching this game, you said that's almost a typical challenger play, because it seemed like they made the call of let's do Baron right off the bat, and then could not deviate from that call after the fact. Even when they saw the Nunu, you know, you have a Korean-speaking jungler, you have a call where you think you're doing Baron clean, and you can make it go.
I think that just roots from a little bit of a lack of confidence that if we pull off of this, we can just get it later. We can do more plays later. But they felt like they had to do it now.
Yeah.
And they just fell apart because, well, you know, they could have ended the game faster. They didn't fall apart. They won the game.
Yeah.
But they didn't end it as fast as they could. And we said before at the beginning that Coach just doesn't really know how to end games properly.
Yeah.
And that was a big, good example of that right there.
An example of why they can't close the games. Also an example of why the RNG team composition actually does make a whole lot more sense. And even though Coast got away with it this time, it's not like their weakness has disappeared. It's still potentially a big player in the series that they can't close games efficiently.
All right, so let's move on to game 2 here. Coast is up 1-0, but adjustments can be made. As we mentioned, best of 5 series. If you're on the side of Renegades, what are you looking to change in these 10 minutes that you have before you get back on stage?
Yeah, I actually have some ideas for them. I don't think they should go for a protected COG comp. I think they should go for more something like Elise, Morgana. Those were good picks for them, I think, because they have really good teamwork when it comes to roaming around and helping each other out. And if they have Nunu and Lulu, they just can't roam as well as they can with champions like Elise and with Eve and things like that. So I think they should kind of switch their game plan around a little bit and go for more mid-game oriented champions that can make picks and plays.
Yeah, one thing that I liked from Coast side, actually, with the draft that St. Fish has put together, was it was a very generalized team composition with a lot of versatile champions. And if they can win that matchup against a very specified team comp like Protect the Kog'Maw, Saint should just allow Renegades to keep outthinking themselves. Like, if Renegades wants to have a specific 5-man composition in mind and not really care about any of the counter picks, like, why in the world would the first pick Braum say, all right, time to do Protect the Kog'Maw? Like, they had an exact thing they wanted to do, that team comp. And if St. Vicious is confident enough in his guys and they've shown that they can win, literally just save for the counter picks. That's all he should be going into the next champ select with in his mind.
Right, so we keep in mind here that Renegades is moving over to the blue side for this
Red side's
next.
perfect for counter picking.
Exactly. So they're not going to have that opportunity if they want to, you know, tilt that mid lane matchup that we were looking at the beginning of the day, where we saw Renegades. They were also trying to focus that mid lane matchup. Without this counter pick now, you know, what you do wonder, where are they going to pivot to? Are they going to go trend earlier in terms of scaling earlier mid game, like you mentioned, because the Kog'Maw clearly didn't work out. You can't give up 7K gold leads, you know, when you're looking to go to 45 minutes into the game.
Not really at all.
Well, yeah, in no situation is the 7K gold lead, you know, something that you just want to offer up to people. But anyway, we'll see if those teams can make the proper preparations moving into game 2. We're going to step away while they do so. Match 2 begins between Renegades and Team Coast in just a bit. Don't go anywhere.
Good question. Ref, is it allowed for Alex to squat? Go for it.
Squats appear to be permitted.
What's the legality on squats?
TP comes in a bit late. Remulia, one hit from dead, can't quite reach. There's the hop. There's the Q. Boomerang from downtown. He's got Black Shield on. He's gonna get it. Crumb steals the Baron, but now what's gonna be the backside of this one? Gets chunked down, can't steal enough. Gets killed off, but there's still more kills coming through. It's a 4 for 2, all said and done. Crumb's gonna be the 5th, and that means Baron.
Ulting.
Careful.
I'm on turret. I'm on turret.
Go. Eyes on you. Help me.
Turret. Right here. Peel back.
And game 1 goes to Coast.